Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Austin's housing market is dropping faster than any other housing market in America. And it seems surprising, right? A lot of people think, no, that should be San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York City. No, it's Austin. But what's happening behind the scenes in the Texas housing market is really shocking. So much so that I don't think anyone will believe it. I'll leave all the information below in the show notes because at the end of this video, you'll be blown away. I think what we're going to probably see here is home prices in Texas drop faster than any other location in the country. And I think what we're going to start to see here are desperate sellers. This mania that we experienced between 2020 and 2022, where everyone had to move from their expensive city and buy a house in Austin or buy a house in Texas, is over. It's done. The first-time home buyer down payment, on average, was 6% during that period. And for a second home was 13%. So when we look at these numbers, right? So it says Austin housing market crash rings real estate alarm bells. The housing market in the city of Austin, Texas, and by the way, today's video is sponsored by GreatCreditFast.com. If you want to fix your credit to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, go to GreatCreditFast.com and schedule a free consultation. We can see how we can help position you with great credit so you can get financing to invest in what I believe is going to be an incredible real estate investing opportunity. Texas has become the focus of widespread concerns after home prices have dropped faster than anywhere else in the country, including troubled San Francisco. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, home prices in Austin have fallen by more than 10% between July 2022 and April 2023, while on a national level, home prices declined by about 1%. The Texas city saw the biggest decline in the entire country, followed by San Fran with a drop of 10%, Bend, Oregon, 9.5%, Boise, Idaho, 9.3%. What's happening in Austin is something that the housing market analysts predicted last summer when experts told Newsweek that the recent years of booming prices would have been followed by a price correction. Now, this is the media's version, right? They're going to say that it was just low interest rates, it was the booming economy, it was people relocating. That is not at all true, right? But to look further into their story before I tell you what's happening, they say that the average home price right now is $530,000 in Austin, right? They say that $530,000 price point, let's say your first time buyer, the average down payment was 6%, right? At a 3% mortgage in 2020 or 2021 was $2,800 a month. People can afford that. You're living in a place like LA, San Fran, New York, you're spending $4,000 a month in rent, right? So for you to be able to go from being in a high tax location to reducing your expenses by 30% plus not paying income tax and also building equity in your property, people are like, hell, I'll do that. I'm not going to spend $530, I'll spend $830, right? People are willing to spend because they were also afraid of inflation. So they were borrowing as much as they could to get in there. But now let's look at how this plays out. So with an 8% mortgage, you're at $4,381 for that same property. $4,381, right? And that's basically where you need to be. So when we start to look at how this all plays out, that's where you need to be, about 8%. And some people might hop on here and be like, no, John, interest rates are 7%. Okay, 7%, $4,000, right? It doesn't really change the game too much, right? It doesn't move the needle. You still need to make $16,000 a month to be able to afford that comfortably. Some might say, no, 12, 13,000. You got to make $150,000 plus per year to be able to afford to live in a basic home in Austin, right? Not many people can swing that right now. And you have to also have $30,000 cash, plus lenders are going to want you to have some reserves, so you need to sit on $50,000 liquid. A lot of people aren't able to swing that. But property taxes also skyrocketed, right? The last couple of years, insurance skyrocketing. And property taxes, so much so that it went from $3,000 to $4,000. So basically a 20% increase per year since 2016. That's a challenge. But this is where the media is not covering. This is what is really happening. So the oil and gas industry is 35% of the entire economy. 35%. To put that into context, during the Great Depression, 1929 to 1933, unemployment was at 29%, right? So 29% of those jobs basically were wiped out. But when you're going after this industry, 35%, and all the climate goals and everything that they want to do by 2030, these jobs are going to start getting cut left, right, and center. Oil production costs are going to be going up. It's going to get more and more expensive to live in Texas as a whole if they're going to start cutting the ability for people to earn a living. And they even fact check it. They're like, oh no, it's mostly true. Whenever they fact check things, the purpose of fact checking it is to prove that it's wrong. And they'll try to find one little line somewhere and be like, oh no, it's wrong because of this thing, right? But when they're looking at it like, oh, is it 35%? Yeah, it's mostly true, right? 35%. So when we look at this, Texas oil production clashes with climate goals, right? The world needs to cut more than half of oil, coal, and gas in the coming decade to maintain a chance of keeping climate change from reaching dangerous levels, right? So look at this letter from Abbott. This is on his website, gov.texas.gov. It says, Governor Abbott issues a letter to President Biden on EPA plan that threatens oil and gas production in Permian Basin. This is, the most successful basin for Texas. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Permian Basin produces in Texas and New Mexico are responsible for 5.2 million barrels of oil per day, which can be processed into about 95 million gallons of gas a day. The letter points out that not only would the EPA's redesignation process lead to higher gas prices for Americans by disrupting roughly 25% of the oil supply, but it puts at risk hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs. The Texas oil and gas industry directly employs 422,000 Texans and supports 1.37 million total direct and indirect Texan jobs. So, think about it. You're in the Texas, you're in Texas, you're in the oil and gas industry. Your job might be threatened, right? You're not there. Let's say you're, in another industry. But maybe you have customers that are a part of the oil and gas industry that support your business. Well, that money could start to slowly fade away. But even if that doesn't happen, and you're in the other 65% in Texas, the cost of oil is likely going to continue to rise. So heating your home is going to get more expensive. Driving locations is going to get more expensive. The cost of food, T-shirts, everything that you get in trucks is going to get more expensive to get to you. The cost is likely going to continue to rise. And as they start to see this, they're going to continue, I believe, printing money over the next 5 to 7 years. Every single year, I think they're going to print more and more and more money. And what is this going to do? It's going to make inflation worse. So we're going to start to see a dynamic and a relationship with the government in which we've never seen before. And I think Texas is going to be at the forefront of that change. They want to reduce emissions by 45% in the next 6.5 years. 45%. So when we're looking at this, Governor Abbott letter also requests a response from Biden administration, right? Do you think Biden's answering to Abbott, right? Do you? I don't think so. Do you think, they signed this deal, this Paris deal, in 2015, right? They signed this years and years and years ago. And so when we start to look at how this all plays out, this is, White House set 80% renewable by 2030, right? This is going to be a complete game changer for Texas property values. This isn't just some, type of speculation. You have to ask yourself, if the economy contracts, right, what are people going to do? I think that what we've seen from 2020 and 2021 and 2022 is a lot of these tech firms relocating and bringing in expensive talent to Texas. People thought that they were set. They're able to get these high wages, build wealth in their properties, not pay income tax. But as the economy contracts, these tech companies are going to just continue outsourcing more and more and more talent. So we have a unique situation in which we're going to see oil and gas contract in Texas. We're going to start to see high-paying tech jobs start to contract even more. Over 200,000 tech jobs have so far been lost in the first 6 months of 2023, which is 20% more than all tech jobs that have been lost in 2022. So, Texas is getting hit left, right, and center. And when we start to look at, the state of the economy, we start to look at, this affordability crisis, I think that we're going to see a really, really big problem in Texas's housing market over the next 5 years. I think there's also going to be a lot of opportunity to invest in Texas, but I think that at these price valuations, I think a lot of people that locked in mortgages, these 3% mortgages at record high home prices, aren't going to have an ability to do a refinance. They're not going to have much room to move, and hopefully they didn't overpay to an extent to, in relation to their income. Like, hopefully they can be able to brace for higher taxes and higher insurance, and they hopefully don't get impacted by this. But, the data suggests that we're going to see a massive restructuring of Texas and the housing market and affordability. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think that this is actually going to go down from now until 2030 with this renewable plan? Do you think that this is going to, cost millions and millions and millions of jobs? Just this one basin alone that he discusses is 1.4 million jobs. So when you look at that, 1.4 million off of just 1.37 million to be direct or specific, 1.37 million total direct and indirect Texas jobs off just one basin, off just one. I think big changes are coming. Drop it below. I'm curious, what do you think? Maybe you live in Texas. Maybe you have a different point of view. Maybe maybe you're going to be able to supply me with information that I'm not seeing, or maybe you can correct me in some way. Do so below in the comments. And subscribe here. Also, add me on IG for short form content I won't post here. But again, I'm not saying this to concern anyone. But if we look at the facts, I think the facts are pointing to an incredible investing opportunity coming over the next couple of years if you're smart and prepared and you're positioned for it. And if you need help fixing your credit, we'd love to be there to help you at greatcreditfast.com. And catch you guys in the next video.